ICG orders Colombia immediately to cease activities in Nicaraguan EEZ waters. On April 21, 2022, the International Court of Justice (ICJ) delivered judgment in Nicaragua versus Colombia concerning alleged violation of sovereign rights and maritime spaces in the Caribbean Sea. Following a ruling rendered in 2012 in a territorial and maritime dispute between the two countries, the ICJ determined that Colombia breached its international obligation to respect Nicaragua's sovereign right and jurisdiction by patrolling and trying to control fishing in areas that the ICJ had previously held to be within Nicaragua's exclusive economic zone (EEZ). The ICJ considered that these activities engage Colombia's responsibility under international law and determined that Colombia must be immediately cease its wrongful conduct. At the beginning of the 20th century, Colombia, Nicaragua, and the United States claimed sovereignty over areas southwest of the Caribbean Sea, north of Colombia, and east of Nicaragua. On December 6, 2001, Nicaragua commenced proceeding before the ICJ against Colombia concerning title to territory and maritime delimitation in the Western Caribbean pursuant to international customary law, as reflected in certain provision of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, and the dispute settlement mechanism provided for under the American Treaty on Pacific Settlement of 1948, known as the Pact of Bogota. Colombia contested the ICJ's jurisdiction based on the treaty signed in 1928 between Colombia and Nicaragua, which Colombia argued that had settled the issue of sovereignty over the island of San Andres, Providencia, Santa Catalina, and the maritime features forming part of the San Andres archipelago, thereby excluding the ICJ jurisdiction to resolve any dispute arising out of the Pact of Bogota. 2007 ruling. On December 13, 2007, the ICJ partially rejected Colombia's objection to jurisdiction in a judgment concerning preliminary objection. The ICJ considered that while the 1928 treaty had settled the issue of sovereignty over the island of San Andres, Providencia, and Santa Catalina, it hadn't effected a general delimitation of the maritime areas whether the two countries, nor had it identified which other maritime features form part of the rest of the San Andres archipelago. As a consequence, the ICJ retained jurisdiction under the Pact of Bogota over Nicaragua's maritime and sovereign claim to areas other than island of San Andres, Providencia, and Santa Catalina. 2012 ruling. On November 19, 2012, in a decision on the merits of the case, the ICJ granted Nicaragua the control of a large amount of the Western Caribbean surrounding waters and seabed. The ICJ, however, considered that Colombia and not Nicaragua had sovereignty over the island at Alburquerque, Bello Nuevo, Eso this case, Coiseteno, Roncador, Serena, Serenilla, as it had continuously and consistently acted as the sovereign entity in respect of the maritime features in dispute. Colombia refused to recognize the 2012 ruling, and shortly after the ruling it withdrew from the Pact of Bogota, thus renouncing the ICJ jurisdiction to resolve its dispute of a jurisdictional nature that arise among the signatories of the Pact of Bogota concerning any question of international law. For more information on the finding of the 2012 ruling and the consequences of Colombia withdrawal from the Pact of Bogota. 2013 proceeding. In 2013, Nicaragua filed a new case before the ICJ claiming Colombia violated the 2012 ruling by continuing to patrol and control fishing activities in areas within Nicaragua EEZ. Colombia denied Nicaragua's claim, insisting that no violation of the 2012 ruling regarding the maritime boundaries in the Western Caribbean had taken place. Colombia stated that the patrolling of the area was intended to prevent smugglers and drug trafficking, as well as protect the Seaflower Marine Reserve protected by UNESCO, which intersect with Nicaragua's EEZ in accordance with the 2012 ruling. 2022 ruling. On April 21, 2022, the ICG decided that it had jurisdiction under the Pact of Bogota to settle the dispute regarding the alleged violation of Nicaragua's right in the maritime zone pursuant to the 2012 ruling, as well as certain counterclaim Colombia submitted against Nicaragua. First, the court determined that Colombia had violated Nicaragua's sovereign right by interfering with fishing and marine scientific research activities of Nicaraguan naval vessels and authorizing fishing activities in the EEZ, as well as purporting to enforce conservation measures in that zone. Accordingly, the ICG ordered Colombia to cease its wrongful conduct immediately. However, the court held that Colombia retained its right to patrol the area in relation to drug trafficking and transnational crime. The ICG also ordered Colombia to bring into conformity with customary international law and the 2012 ruling, a presidential decree issued in 2013 which established the maritime areas around Colombia in the disputed area. Taking note of Nicaragua's willingness to negotiate an agreement with Colombia to settle the dispute, the ICG considered that the most appropriate solution to address the concern expressed by the Colombia and its national in respect of access to fisheries located within Nicaragua's exclusive economic zone would be the negotiation of a bilateral agreement between the parties. Second, the ICG determined that two of the four counterclaims Colombia had raised were admissible. The first of these two counterclaims, however, was rejected on the merits as the ICG found that inhabitants of the San Andres archipelago didn't enjoy artisanal fishing rights in waters which were now located in Nicaragua's EEZ, and therefore there was no violation of such right. The ICG did grant Colombia's second counterclaim, finding that the baseline Nicaragua used to delimit its territorial waters after the 2012 ruling didn't follow customary international law.